So, let's talk about evangelism. It's one of those words, right? You hear it and a bunch of different images probably pop into your head. But what does it really mean? Is it some special title reserved for just a handful of people? Or is it something bigger? Well, in this explainer, we're going to get right back to the source and figure that out. Yeah, so let's just dive right in with that big question. To really get a handle on what an evangelist is, we've got to go way back to the original texts and see what they have to say about it.
And this really gets to the core of where a lot of the confusion comes from, Do you have to be this super charismatic speaker up on a stage in front of thousands to be an evangelist? Or is it something more personal, a mission that's meant for everyone?
So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to cut through all the noise and get right to the heart of what it means to be a messenger of good news.
All right, so to do that, we've got to start with the word itself. Language always tells a story, and the original Greek word for evangelist, well, that gives us our first huge clue. Okay, so here we have a quote from Ephesians, and this is a great starting point. It puts evangelists right there in the mix with other major church roles like apostles and prophets. And that tells us two really important things right off the bat. First, this is not some new idea. And second, it was seen as a totally vital, God-given role for the church to even work properly. And this is where it all clicks into place. The original Greek word is euangelistis. It's actually made up of two smaller words, eu, which means good, and angelos, which means messenger. So you stick them together, and what do you get? A good news messenger. I mean, that's it. That's the literal nuts and bolts definition. It just strips away all the other stuff we've piled on top over the years and gets right back to the main thing, sharing a message. So if we're looking for the original good news messenger, the ultimate model, well, we have to start with Jesus himself. This right here is such a huge moment. It's the very start of his public ministry, and Jesus stands up and reads from the prophet Isaiah, basically giving his mission statement to the world. And what's the very first thing he says he's there to do? Proclaim good news. It's like he's setting the theme for his entire life's work. He is the original messenger.
And then later on, when he's asked for proof, like, who are you really? His answer is just fascinating. He points to the miracles, sure, but the point he ends on is this. The good news is proclaimed to the poor. See, for Jesus, sharing this message wasn't just a part of what he did. It was the ultimate proof. But Jesus also knew this mission was way too big for just one person. He looked out at the crowds and saw this huge, plentiful harvest. But, he says, there just aren't enough workers. This is a real turning point because it shows that the whole good news messenger thing was never supposed to be a one-man show. It was always meant to be multiplied.
And that brings us to a really important distinction the Bible makes. Turns out, evangelism isn't just one single thing. It's actually presented in two different but connected ways, as a specific gift and as a task for everyone.
Okay, this breakdown is perfect. On the one hand, you have the gift or the office of an evangelist. Think of a guy like Philip in the Bible. He's literally called Philip the Evangelist. That was his title, his main gig. But then, on the other hand, you have the task or the work. Look at Timothy. His mentor Paul tells him, and Timothy's a pastor, mind you, to do the work of an evangelist. So Timothy wasn't an evangelist by title, but the job of sharing the good news was still a core part of what he was supposed to do. See the difference? It's a really important one.
So if even leaders who weren't evangelists were supposed to do this work, what about everybody else? Well, this is where the whole idea explodes from a specific role into a mission for everyone. It's something often called the Great Commission.
And listen to these words. They're some of the very last things Jesus said to his followers. The scope is just massive. He says, all nations, all the world, to the ends of the earth. There's really no wiggle room there, is there? This isn't some gentle suggestion for a few experts. It's a core command for the entire movement. Okay, so let's tie this all together. While some people might have that specific gift of evangelism, the work of evangelism, that basic mission of being a good news messenger, that's a call for every single person who believes. All right, so if this call is for everyone, then what does that actually look like? In the real world, how do you do it? Let's check out a kind of practical toolkit we can pull straight from the scriptures. The first thing is just about being ready. And notice this, it doesn't say always be out there forcing conversations. It says always be prepared to give an answer. The whole idea is that the way you live your life might be what makes someone ask a question. And when they do, you should be ready to explain what that hope you have is all about. So really, it starts with just knowing what you believe and why. One of the most classic tools for this is something called the Romans Road. It just uses a handful of verses from the book of Romans to lay out a really logical path. You can see it here. It starts with the problem we all share, that we've all sinned. Then it moves to the consequence of that, which is death. But then, and this is the big pivot, it presents the solution, that Christ died for us. After that, it's about the response, confessing and believing. And the result? Peace with God. It's a really clear, step-by-step way to walk through the core message.
Here's another way to think about it. We could call it John's journey. This one focuses more on the relationship side of things. It uses verses from the Gospel of John to hit some key themes. It starts with this amazing idea of receiving Christ and becoming a child of God. Then it talks about what it means to be born again, spiritually. And the reason for all of it? God's incredible love. It all leads to that ultimate promise, a hope so strong it overcomes death.
And finally, let's look at Paul's pathway. This framework, pulled from his letters, really zeroes in on the theme of transformation. It kicks off with this mind-blowing concept that we are made alive by grace, literally moving from death to life. Then it makes it super clear that this isn't something we earn, it's a gift. It's not by works. And the climax of it all is this powerful idea of becoming a new creation. The old you is gone, and something completely new is here.
So we end up right back where we started. The message, at its core, is simple. It's good news. And that mission, the one Jesus modeled for us, has been passed down to everyone who follows him. You know, the harvest is just as plentiful today as it ever was. The only question left is the same one he asked 2,000 years ago. Are you ready to be a worker?